Michael, it's not a bailout. This was a one-off $25 million grant, which would have been matched by the state with $90 million from CCA itself, the owner, where every cent was to be spent on retooling this last of the three factories so they could actually put into production their new products that they've been market testing that have gone down really well with the public. It was one-off. It was an investment that would have been repaid multiply instead of these workers requiring the dole or disability support allowance. Your $25 million will be eaten up very quickly with the loss of this factory and the 700 workers losing their jobs and the immediately linked jobs of about 5,000 to 7,000 in our local community.
OK, do you believe the factory will close?
Well, we've got a situation where it was imminent, its closure for the last 2 years. It's losing hundreds of millions of dollars. This was a last-ditch stand. The factory has done major restructuring. It's brought its workforce down by 30%. It's put all of its tradies back out to a contract situation. They have shut 2 of the 3 factories. They've told half their growers can't take your fruit anymore, the other half only 50%. What more can you do in the way of restructuring? This is not a union problem either, as was suggested at the press conference yesterday with the Prime Minister. This is a problem of the cheap, dumped, often contaminated, imported fruit, which is flooding our hospitality industry, our food services sector. It's getting into the supermarket shelves, and Australians are baffled. They don't always know where this stuff has come from because of our confused labelling laws. And the anti-dumping authority said, yes, you're definitely being dumped against your Italian tomatoes and your South African peaches, but nothing has been done so far in the way of a fair go with tariffs or duties to level up that dumping situation. So it's not this company's fault. Unfortunately, with the $25 million investment, they could have battled on, further losses for a while. They could have come through perhaps. We won't know exactly what their business plans are until the second week in February. They've given themselves that time to work out just where do you go from here.
You make the point about dumping, and with Sharman Stone, one of the big reasons why these foreign products have been so cheap, of course, has been the high Australian dollar, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing, any government can do about that.
Well, it's nothing as a company like SPCA can do about it either. There are, in fact, some instruments you can use in relation to your own currency. But you're right, that huge high dollar knocked out SPCA's exports virtually overnight. They had about 30% of their production being exported into healthy Asian markets. So they lost their exports, and that high dollar also, of course, triggered the flood of dirt cheap imports. So it was a perfect storm for them. CCA, their owner, has done a fantastic job hanging on with this failing company in their collection of companies. They didn't close last year or the year before, as was imminent, but now there's this last straw has been delivered yesterday, and we just wait in hope that CCA shareholders will say, look, this is an industry, orchard industry based, that cannot be renewed once those trees are gone. We won't have an Australian fruit processing industry in the whole country if SPCA doesn't get a lifeline and keep on going. So I'm hoping CCA, their shareholders, understand that and are willing to take a few more losses. That's, of course, in their hands now, and it's just a tragedy. Just
a couple of final quick questions. Of course, you're very unhappy with the Cabinet decision. Did you have anybody in that Cabinet arguing your case?
Absolutely. All of the regionally based Cabinet ministers understood exactly the impacts of this decision. I know they argued very, very strongly. Ian Macfarlane himself understood, has worked very hard on this for a long time. And of course the independent panel that the government put together itself with Dick Warburton, Ms Livington and Combay, it recommended that SPCA be supported, given it could work its way through with this one-off small injection, but apparently none of that had the impact on the majority. Yep. And the thing that concerned me most, I have to say, Michael, is that at the press conference, the real reasons for SPCA's struggles, the reasons that the Productivity Commission itself gave, were not referred to. Instead, it was a bit of a go at the unions and saying, well, CCA is not in the red, so, let them restructure. They have restructured. The problems are beyond their control. They needed a government investment, short-term one-off, and then we would have continued to have had a food processing industry for Australia.
You're clearly furious, and I think most of our viewers would pick that up, Sharman Stone. As a Liberal MP, do you feel betrayed by the Prime Minister?
Well, it's not, of course, just the Prime Minister's call. It's the whole of Cabinet. There's the majority of the Cabinet that have come up with this decision. I'm a bit worried when they say also it's the line in the sand, it's the marker and whatever. What does that mean? I think governments are in place to take each case on its merit. After all, we subsidise public transport in Sydney and Melbourne. Your pharmaceuticals have public expenditure embedded in them and so on. So I really don't get it when you say corporations or businesses who, through no fault of their own, will go to the wall without some government support. Short-term one-off, that's a no-no. Somehow that's wicked corporate welfare. Sorry, I don't buy that. And I do have a PhD in economics. I'm not completely dumb in this area, but I do know the consequences for this Murray and Goulburn Valley.
And just finally, you are so angry. There's something you could do about it if you do feel so disillusioned and perhaps betrayed by the Prime Minister and Cabinet. You could quit the Liberal Party and perhaps stand as an independent MP. Have you considered that?
Well, I've been asked about that a lot, not just in the last 2 days. The trouble is an independent right now in the House of Representatives doesn't have the balance of power. There's about 40 or so, thank goodness, margin in the Liberal Party. So do you spit the dummy for a short term, I told you so, sit on the cross benches with no direct access to the ministers, no direct engagement with the party room? I'm not sure that would serve my constituents well. I'm hired and fired by my own Murray constituents, my voters. I'm also a Liberal. My Liberal principles haven't been bashed by this. I've just got to work on with the federal party right now, join together with my coalition backbenchers who've phoned me about this and said, look, this is terrible, what can we do? And hope that CCA doesn't pull the plug, announce a retirement from the field, deeply wounded, in the next couple of weeks.